Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Depression Vacation Podcast. We took a little bit of time off. It's been a weird first month of the year for both of us so far.
Yeah. We both were very, very sick. It was, so I think the last time we recorded was 2 weeks ago, and then the time before that was 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's been a weird start to the year for us.
Yeah, Shannon and I both had bouts where we had zero voice whatsoever. I think I talked about that on the episode that we did 2 weeks ago, because it was very weird. And it's so funny, too, because, like, I was scheduling... When my voice was going out, I had to schedule the witnesses for, like, the back half of January because I still hadn't finished the last week. And now I'm seeing some of these witnesses, and they're like, oh, you sound so much better now. You don't sound like deaf anymore. I'm like, oh, thank you so much. Yeah.
One of my employees has been in the hospital. Thankfully, she's coming back on Monday, but she called me last week to, like, confirm all of that. And I was at home, sick in bed, and she called and she was like, you sound sick. And I was like, yeah. And she was like, oh, gosh, have you been out? And I was like, yeah, I've been out like a whole week. So it was kind of funny because she was like, oh, gosh, I didn't expect you to be sick. I'm like, well, neither did I.
Does anybody ever expect to be sick?
No.
No. Unless your mom intentionally gets you infected with the chicken pox. So
that is true.
But then you don't expect it, so...
Right. They're sneaky, those moms.
Yeah, but it's all for your own good-ish.
Not for everyone.
So this is an interesting thing, too, because, like, as a quick aside, as we're talking about chicken pox in today's episode, Hal and Shannon talk chicken pox. Did you get chicken pox as a kid?
No.
Because they have a vaccine for it now, right? So
yeah, no, I never got chicken pox. Also, weird thing. So, like, there's some weird things that you hear about everybody going through. You know how, like, in the book Madeline and her appendix bursts?
Yeah.
Like, I just thought that, like, that happened to everybody. Like, when I was a kid, I was like, oh, gosh, I'm just waiting for this eventuality that one day my appendix is just going to spontaneously burst.
Yeah.
And... to this day, I still have my appendix.
Yeah, same. Like, I don't think that was as common a thing even in the previous generation because that actually happened to my mom like 5 years ago. Like, she was coming back from something in Reading and her appendix like inflamed and was like 2 hours away from bursting essentially. And she drove herself back to Harrisburg and then to the hospital like in agony. And they said that she was, like, very close to having it burst at that point. And my mom, had, like, 5 years ago, she was in her early 70s. So,
oh, Lordy.
So the appendix is not, like...
It's no joke.
No. In fact, I think I could be wrong about what this organ was. But my dad said that his dad, when he was a child, his appendix burst. And, like... they didn't have a lot of science to deal with it at the time, and he told me that they just sort of cut him open and put an ice cube inside of him, which doesn't sound like that was actually medicine even in the 1920s.
No.
So, but he survived. I think it was an appendix.
That doesn't sound real.
But, like, there are all these weird, like, medical things that don't happen anymore. Like, a big thing when I was a kid were tonsils.
I was just about to ask, do you have your tonsils?
Yeah.
I have my tonsils.
We were, like, my generation was right around the time where they stopped removing tonsils. But like a lot of TV shows I would watch as a kid and movies were still talking about having your tonsils out. In fact, I remember the first piece of media I saw where somebody was not getting their tonsils out was the is it Jeff Daniels? Yeah, the Jeff Daniels classic Arachnophobia from the 90s, where he's like a country doctor and he's inducing like all this new medicine stuff to this like small town. And one of them is like a kid who thought he was going to get his tonsils out and get a lot of ice cream. No, we actually leave the tonsils in these days. So Jeff Daniels taught me that.
Weird. Yeah, it's really funny because they threatened to take my tonsils out.
As a threat.
Yeah, it was a threat because every single year without fail, not as much recently, but I always get strep throat. Always. And it used to be, like I said, yearly. And I'd go to the doctor and they'd be like, we don't know what you have. And I'd be like, I have strep throat. Test me for strep throat. And they're like, no. And I'm like, I guarantee you I have strep throat. And then they would test me and I'd have strep throat. And they'd be like, do you have kids? And I was like, no. And they like, do you work with kids? And I was like, no. And they were like, then how the hell did you get strep throat? And the answer was that when I was working in retail and then at the movie theater, I had to count down all of the drawers. So I touched every single bill of money that came into that building. There were 12 registers when I was at Marshall's. I would count every single one of them.
Yeah, they say money is the dirtiest thing.
It is disgusting. And then, down I was working, I don't do teller work anymore, but when I was a teller, I got strep throat because I touched every single bill that came into the building. And they were like, well, if you keep getting strep throat, we might just have to take your tonsils out. I was like, you bastards, no. I've grown quite fond of my tonsils. Please keep them in.
I don't even know what tonsils do, actually. I just know they're part of the throat. But you are lucky that you missed chickenpox because I guess we were because there is a vaccine for it now, I'm aware. And we might have been like one of the last generations from mine where we actually went to go play with a kid who had chickenpox just to get it because... if you get it as an adult, it could be fatal. So I got it in first grade, and it was like the worst week of my life. Like everything itched all the time. I couldn't sleep. There was a fever involved too. It was like really horrible.
My mom, so my uncle got chickenpox when he was a kid, and then my grandparents had my mom go in and be like, oh no, you poor thing, and was hugging and kissing him, and then she got the chicken pox because they wanted them both to get them at the same time so that they could just knock it out.
Yeah, it's one of those things too. Because you have chicken pox, I don't know if this affects you, but I can catch shingles at any given time as well.
Right. Yeah, that happened to my grandpa. He got shingles.
I think I did have a light form of shingles at one point a couple of years ago because I did have the markings at one point, and apparently it can come out while you're super stressed. Because when I was working for Relativity, my friend Cindy was my coordinator for the development projects we were working on, and they were working her to the bone, to the point where she had no life whatsoever. And then she started getting super sick and had rashes all over her body, and it turned out she got a serious case of shingles because she was being overworked. And that kind of contributed to her leaving the company a while later. And actually, she I don't think she works in TV anymore. That's an interesting thing too, is so many people I worked with in TV during my years in LA completely got burned out in the industry and don't do it at all anymore.
That's sad.
I was talking to a friend of mine. I have a couple friends from LA who actually listen to the podcast. Shout out to Sean, who occasionally...
Hi, Sean.
Hi, Sean. Sean was one of my favorite people because we would just talk Stephen King books all the time. But
I'm reading Fairy Tale right now.
Oh, I got that for Christmas, actually.
Yeah. I'm about 100 pages in. I'm liking it so far.
Yeah, that's one of my resolutions for this year was to start to read more. Because I used to, when I was in good routines in general, one of my things was always reading before bed to try to get sleepy. And now I'm at a point where I will just play Hearthstone and watch movies until it's 2 a.m.
Well, I've started doing this thing to try and improve my sleep where 9 o'clock I'm supposed to not use my phone after 9 o'clock. Mm-hmm. And then from 9 to 10 I have myself a cup of herbal tea and I read. And then 10 o'clock I go to bed. And so that's been the idea. It's not always what I do, but it's been working. I'm happy with it. I think it's a good routine to have.
Yeah, I think bedtime routines are important because I don't know. That's the core of unhealthiness for me sometimes is if I'm drinking beer before bed and just playing games, and then like I said, all of a sudden it's 2 a.m, and then your entire next day is derailed. So
well, yeah, because they say the screens they keep you awake.
Yeah, because
blue light and whatever.
Yeah,
nonsense.
One of the things I worked on for WITF was actually a sleep. They talked to a sleep doctor at Milton Hershey, and I think we did talk about this on the program before. But she had said that blue light is the worst thing for you because it erodes your body's ability to make melatonin. And also she said her unpopular, I don't want to say unpopular opinion, she had a hot take on the concept of artificial light in general, that she said artificial light is still so new to humanity in the scope that we have it, that humanity has 100% not adapted to it. So all artificial light actually fucks up your ability to sleep.
Delightful.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Delightful. We're so funny.
Yeah, I'm sorry, everyone. That just made me think. So that's why when I get glasses now, it's an unconscious thing where if they ask me if I want the blue light blocker on my glasses, I just ask for it. I pay the extra money because I'm on my phone all the time. And now, I mean, I work at a computer most of my time. So that's really been helping. Now I'm just waiting for them to be able to do like a blue light thing with contact lenses. That would be really cool. If any scientists or inventors are listening to the podcast, I will find you if you would invent that, and I will beat you up for money.
I bet you that somebody is inventing that right now, a combination blue light contact lens that prevents hair loss at the same time.
Really?
If not, you want to invent something.
See, that's the thing. Like, I always have really good ideas, but I'm not technically minded, like mechanically minded. I could never invent things.
That's the thing with like,
I'm an idea man, you see.
Well, that's what Steve Jobs was. Steve Jobs couldn't code or like do any of the physical building. He just had like all of these ideas and just was a marketing genius to put them into like ways that people actually wanted them. That was a big sticking point between like code friends I have is everybody loves Steve Wozniak because he was actually the one who wrote the code. But he was like, are you familiar like with the story of the two Steves at Apple? Yeah, it's
like the whole Zuckerberg situation.
It's not even that, because like I always thought Steve Wozniak was a really interesting person because he only made like $18 million off of essentially founding Apple. But every interview you see with him and everything he did after he left Apple, he just seems like a happy person. It was kind of like, yeah, I don't need billions of dollars. I'll take this 18 million and live my best life. And
is he still alive?
Oh yeah, still. He still pops up in random places too, because I didn't know. I knew this because this was a throwaway joke on The Simpsons for their Lollapalooza episode. But he founded a music festival in the 90s too. That popped up in a music festival documentary I was watching. And I'm like, oh, I totally forgot that Wozniak did the Ozfest. So
weird.
Yeah.
Huh. We were talking about reading. I wanted to bring up... No, well, I was thinking about this earlier.
I love the ADD is still working for all.
Oh, yes. No, if anything I can count on in my lifetime, it's the ADHD.
Me too.
It's one of those little steadfast little buggers, you know. But I just read Jeanette McCurdy's I'm Glad My Mom Died. You've probably seen that on the internet.
Yeah.
It took me 2 days. I read that book in 2 days.
Did you really want your mom to die?
No. But it was, I mean, it was for what you know of me and my background. Like, it was very cathartic. Just like her mom and mine are cut from the same cloth.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting to read. And I was like telling all my friends and family about it. And my family, it was something that it was my stepmom who brought it up. And I told her about the book, and she said, oh my goodness, that title is harsh. And I was like, but that's exactly the point. And the point is that, you know, we have these complicated feelings as victims of abuse towards, you know, these individuals in society that everyone puts on a pedestal and everybody sees as like, I could never, well, and also we have this societal feeling of, oh, we can't speak ill of the dead and that kind of thing. So it's those kinds of mindsets where like, yes, on the surface, it's a harsh title, but it's like what Jeanette McCurdy went through growing up and, you know, her eating disorders and that addiction, a lot of it stemmed from her mother. And if her mother were still alive, she even said in the book, like, it's very likely I'd still be I'd still have an eating disorder. I'd still be struggling. And, you know, in that sense, it's like, yeah, I'm kind of glad that she's gone, because then I'm doing better and I'm healing and I'm recovering.
Yeah. There's a lot to that sometimes, like with, I mean, parent, like what you'd said too about like putting people on pedestals. I remember there's a line from Saving Mr. Banks, I remember, where Emma Thompson. I always say Emma Watson when I mean Emma.
No, but I'm really excited that I caught a name before you did.
Yeah. Good job. But anyway, she's like, her thing is like, they're saying that Mrs. Banks doesn't have a job. And she's like, well, she's a mother. It's a job. It's a very important job. It's a very hard job. And it's not a job that everyone is suited for. And
that's true.
Yes. And then that's like, because it is, especially like in that time period, if you weren't a mother and you were a woman, that was very unusual. So
Right. Well, and a lot of people just put such an emphasis on, mothers just kind of can do no wrong. But we can see logically and we can see historically that is not even remotely true. We have a laundry list of famous mothers for really bad reasons,
Yeah.
You have, what's the Joan Crawford?
Oh, I was just thinking Mommy Dearest when you
Yep.
said that.
And then there was another one I was thinking right up that Casey Anthony, and I'm reading another book right now, that I'm listening to on Audible. It's called The Changeling by Victor Lavelle. And in the first quarter of the book, it addresses this idea of like motherhood and the struggles that mothers can go through. And I won't spoil it, but the mother in the first quarter of the book does something like horrendous. And it wasn't, I'm not through the book yet, so it wasn't necessarily like a malicious thing, but it's like, if you make a mistake as a mother, that's, the cardinal sin. But
it's going to happen too. Like,
right. But still, and it's interesting because the father in the book is receiving backlash for what the mother did. And it's like, we're kind of always deflecting blame off of mothers, I feel.
Yeah. The concept of parenthood in general is something that is going through like everything right now, like a reevaluation in general, because yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on this. Just like, as I'm sure you do too, like, growing up, you think that everything that your parents do is 100% correct. And then you like get introduced out into the real world and you realize that like, oh, this is not normal what is going on here. Most kids don't listen to Rush Limbaugh in the morning on their way into school or things like that. So.
Right. I think that is a very unique experience as well between like humans and animals, right? Because animals, all of their parenting is instinctual and they don't really have to go through the same decision making that parents of humans have to go through, if you really think about it. Because most of the decisions that like animal parents make are survival based, you know? And a lot of parents in the animal kingdom, they like make sure they're like, you good? And then they bounce,
Yeah. See you laters.
Yeah. So I think that's really interesting is that the complications of parenthood for humans, I think is really interesting. And I think that, it's not an easy job whatsoever. I don't think that the kind of parenthood that's now needed for as complicated of a civilization that we have, and all of the complex social aspects that we have to go through, I mean, I don't think that's instinctual.
No. This is a big thing on The Sopranos, actually, and it ties into, like, Yeah, I've used the cough button, like, 20 times here.
Welcome to Hal and Shannon
Are
in recovery.
Yeah, in recovery. But yeah, they, have you watched The Sopranos at all?
No.
I forgot. Oh my God. If you don't, I would refer to The Sopranos as being, I think, the best TV show of all time.
Okay.
And it still holds up. Like, it wasn't just like an awesome show in 1999 that has been, like, its time has passed. Like, everything in it is still incredibly entertaining and interesting. And the core of the, like, show is Tony's relationship with going to therapy because he's having crippling panic attacks. And it is a lot of it tied into his mother in the first two seasons because his mother is clearly somebody who maybe should not have been a mother and did not raise her kids particularly well. And a lot of his problems stem from that. And when she finds out he goes to therapy, she's like screaming, crying. She's like, all these people going to therapy and talking about how horrible their mothers are. I did everything for your kids. And it's like such an interesting monologue that she gives out because she doesn't realize it, but she's totally affirming why he's in therapy to begin with, is like all of these deep-seated issues that she's put into him, but doesn't even realize. So,
yeah.
When she dies on the show too, she does not want a funeral because she's just a bad person and doesn't have any friends left or anything. But Tony's like new age sister insists on throwing a funeral and having everybody speak a little bit about how much they loved her, and nobody goes whatsoever. And
Yikes.
it's just very. And just very awkward. And then Tony's wife brings up, like, this is why she didn't want a funeral. She was afraid no one would come.
Aw.
Yeah.
But that's so funny. That's my instinctual reaction, is to be like, oh, nobody went to her funeral. You know, like,
Yeah.
I might have said the same thing about Hitler. You know, like, oh, nobody went to Hitler's funeral.
Did Hitler even have a funeral?
I don't know, but I'm just saying, like...
That's an interesting thought. I never thought of.
Like,
Thanks,
could you imagine,
Shannon.
though? Like, I mean, my initial reaction doesn't matter. You could tell me anybody, like, you could say, I don't know, nobody went to Elmo's funeral, and I'd be like, oh, no, not poor Elmo. I mean, but, like, that is sad. But also, at the same time, he's a fictional television character, so, I mean...
I'm the same way whenever a dog dies in a fictional thing. Like,
Yeah.
oh, no, not the dog.
Yeah. But, I mean, like, you know, that's the funny thing is, you know, you feel bad despite the problematic person that's involved.
Yeah, I think the core of it is kind of like, even if somebody is a bad person, they are still a person. Like,
Right.
I mean, this is excluding, like, the monstrous people of the world. Like, nobody should have gone to Hitler's funeral. But,
Right.
like, I don't know. I feel like even the people in this world who annoy me the most and who I really don't like, I would be sad to hear that no one went to their funerals.
I think that's really interesting, and I've lent a lot of thought to this very idea, in the sense that, you know, like you just said, they're still a person. And I think it's really interesting how we as humans place a lot of value on that simple concept.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, and I know this is going to sound like really like, oh man, Shannon's a psychopath, but I mean, I think that's interesting. Like, we place such intrinsic value on human life, which I'm like, yes, that sounds like something you should do.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, it's like one of those things, like, you know, how much value, you know, it I don't know. I'm sounding really weird about
So
it.
a thought I had when you were just saying that, actually, which I'd never considered before, is like, obviously, like, especially in TV nowadays, and because we were talking about The Sopranos, because that kind of kicked off this trend, TV is full of anti-heroes, like complicated, essentially villains, but you're seeing them for their humanity. Like, Breaking Bad's another really good example, because, like, the first time I went through that show, you know, Walter White is a horrible person, but you see everything from his perspective, so it's like, it's tough to hate him in the show, and it actually lends itself to this weird phenomenon that I didn't even know of, where, have you watched Breaking Bad either?
I watched the first episode and I couldn't get into it.
Yeah, it's not for everyone. But his wife on the show is a very hated character among the fans.
I think you've mentioned this
Yeah.
before.
And it's this weird thing where his wife is actually reacting as a normal person could and should react in a lot of the show. Like, when she finds out her husband is manufacturing methamphetamine the size of a mountain. And somebody online put it like, the experience is kind of like, the show is called Breaking Bad. We want to see Walter White break bad, and Skyler is keeping him from breaking bad, even though she is completely right. So that's why fans of the show hate her so much.
Yeah. Well, and that's another thing, like, I loved Dexter when it was out, and it was really funny because, you know, he's a serial killer, and then there's several times where he almost gets caught. You're like, no, I don't want him to get caught, and then you're like, man's a serial killer, come on.
Shoes on the other foot here, because I've seen one episode of Dexter and couldn't get into it.
Really?
Yeah.
It's, I'll admit the first season, it can be a little slow, but I don't know. I loved it. I loved Dexter.
I was just talking with one of my coworkers about this yesterday, because she really likes Dexter. She's also super into serial killers in general. Like, anytime I learn about an interesting true life crime, she's like, oh, I know about that. Mm-hmm. But we were talking about Dexter because even though I haven't seen the show, I've heard from people who love the show that the finale, and specifically kind of the last season, was really, really bad for it.
Yeah, it was. I haven't seen the reboot yet, because they did come out with a reboot, which I was excited about, but it's on some obscure, like,
So not
channel.
Showtime.
No, I don't remember what it's on.
Because that's what we were talking about yesterday too, was they were saying the reboot is actually really good for Dexter, and it's interesting because this has been happening in TV too, because Game of Thrones also, for somebody who really loved those books and that series, the last 3 episodes of Game of Thrones were so joyless and so horribly put together. But now House of the Dragon came out, and that's a kick-ass show, and it sort of like reinvested a lot of people back into that world again. So they're kind of making up for the sins of Dexter and Game of Thrones with these
Spin-offs and reboots, yeah. Well, and so Dexter, I really loved the season. I don't remember if it was season 5 or season 6, but the season where John Lithgow was in it.
Oh, John Lithgow.
Did you know he was in it?
No, I did not.
He plays like the season bad guy in that season, and honestly, it's one of the best seasons of television I've ever seen. I mean, the dynamic between John Lithgow and what's his name?
Dexter.
Well,
Michael Anthony Hall.
Yes, Michael Anthony Hall. Like,
is it Michael Anthony Hall or is it Michael C? Because
I think it's Michael Anthony Hall.
Because I know that like him and the kid from The Breakfast Club have almost the exact same name.
The Anthony sticks out to me.
Yeah, like both of them are Anthony Hall. Yeah, I'll look it up later.
Anyway,
sorry.
No, it's fine. But I mean, they just have such a great on-screen chemistry and dynamic. And John Lithgow, like the character that he plays is so. I mean, I don't know if anyone could have played it better than he could have.
He's a very underrated actor, and he does play villains very well. Because I don't know if you've ever seen I think this was an '80s movie, the '80s classic Cliffhanger.
No.
With Sylvester Stallone. I'm not going to say it's a bad movie. It's very much a Sylvester Stallone movie of its time.
Say no more.
Yeah, but John Lithgow plays the villain in that movie, and
That's so cool.
I was mostly used to seeing him on Third Rock from the Sun, which he was so fantastic on and so funny. But then I see villainous John Lithgow, and I'm like, what is going on here?
Yeah, because I mean, my first exposure to John Lithgow was as a villain.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really funny when I saw him on How I Met Your Mother.
Oh yeah, he's Barney's dad. I forgot about that.
I was like, what the hell, man? You look weird. And also, I thought he did a really great job in the the most recent Pet Cemetery.
Still haven't seen it. I take it he plays like
The old man across the street.
Yeah, the Fred Gwynn character from whose name I cannot remember. Even though I read and loved Pet Sematary in high school, I could not, other than Gage Creed, I couldn't tell you the name of a single other character. Oh, and Church the cat.
Church the cat.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I don't remember his name either, to be honest. I want to say it's Jed.
Yeah,
Judd.
I think you're right. I think it's
yeah.
Jed Judd.
Jed.
I kind of remember, I always remember Gage Creed because I don't know if you ever saw the miniseries for The Shining that Stephen King put together.
No.
Stephen King has a cameo as the band leader in the Overlook Hotel in like the last episode, and his credited name is Gage Creed, band leader.
Huh.
Which I thought was an interesting, and then like when you go back and watch it afterward, like everybody has the GC on their like bandstand that he's directing there, and I'm like, that was a really bizarre choice for a like Easter egg name for your character.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's so funny because I'm reading Fairy Tale, and in the first like chapter, he dropped a reference to Cujo, and I was like, "Bro, you're calling out your own shit in your own book."
Oh man, he does like. I
know he does that all the time,
and
but
I love it.
was like, "Oh my god, really?" I mean.
Oh, so here's a good topic actually since we seem to be stumbling around a little bit for
God
this.
damn it.
What is your favorite, or just, I guess, mention some favorite, like, interweaving Stephen King references from books to books? Do you know of any, remember any, or?
I don't know that I can think of any off the top of my head. I will say that I thought that the new It movies, I know this isn't what you were asking, but, I thought that they were way truer to the books, and I really appreciated that than the original It. And honestly, the Pennywise in the original It, loved Tim Curry. I love him so much, but that Pennywise did not scare me.
It's very different than the book.
Whatsoever.
The book, like Pennywise, at least the implication I got from the book was that the Pennywise there was very much sweeter, very much like a normal person. And Tim Curry, I don't want to say he hammed it up, but he definitely like went full in just scary mode, which...
Well, he was playing a clown. And the funny thing about Pennywise is he's not actually a clown.
Yeah.
And I think you lose the draw of Pennywise as a villain and what makes him so unique because Pennywise isn't a clown. He's it, you know?
Did you ever read the Dark Tower series?
I listened to the first book on Audible, and I had a really hard time with it. I couldn't read it physically either.
Yeah.
So I've never gotten into it, and I can't really figure out why.
It's a super uneven series. Like it gets really fucking weird at several points. Like at one point they come across Doctor Doom robots that are throwing snitches snitches from Harry Potter, blowing things up. And they even recover a snitch, and it says J.K. Rowling model on it, and like Stephen King becomes a character. It gets wacky, but what I was getting to with this before I went on a rant is the second to last, like we'll call it stage of the last Dark Tower book. They encounter a creature called Dandello, which is supposed to be the exact same species of it, and it's a laughing monster. And what it does is it makes you laugh yourself to death. But one of the characters finds a note that Stephen King leaves for them in the bathroom of this creature's house, warning them that it's going to make them laugh to death. And the thing I didn't like about it was Dandello is very easily dispatched, and he's supposed to be the same species of it. And I'm like, okay, I guess it wasn't really that powerful if that was,
Yeah. Well, and I'm thinking maybe I should try to give Dark Tower another shot because I've heard good things, but I don't know.
I was very obsessed with the Dark Tower for a while and very self-aware that it loses its shit several times. It pulls off what I think is the best ending maybe I've ever seen for a book. And actually, it dares you not to read the ending. Like, there's literally an editor's note that when, like, they get to the doors of the Dark Tower, Stephen King's like, hey, if you believe in happy endings, don't read on further.
That's very lemony snicket.
It's so bizarre, and like I actually didn't read the ending for it for a while because I was like, yeah, Stephen King, yeah, fuck you, I'll not read the ending to your book. And then finally I did, and I was like, that's one of the best endings I've ever seen. So also the comics could not rate those even more highly because I love all the Dark Tower comics. Were I think what I didn't like about the Dark Tower was that in the first book or two he establishes this really cool like magical, like medieval but Western world, which you'd never seen before. And he pretty much just throws that out the window to make it into like a multiverse book by book 3. And so they didn't really explore this really cool world where it's like old Western gunslingers, but magic and demons and wizards. And the comic book series is a prequel series, and it goes into that whole thing a lot more. So
okay. Well, that's good.
Also has my favorite comic book artist, Jay Lee, doing them, which his are like colored versions of scary stories to tell in the dark, except not in black and white. Like he does these full illustrations that are like the things of nightmares, essentially.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I talked about the Dark Tower for like 5.5 minutes, despite.
No, that's fine. No, I'm fine with it.
What is your favorite Stephen King book? I'll say.
Oh, that's hard.
That's hard.
It is hard because, man, I've read, I want to say, like 10 of his books so far. I loved, so it was one of my favorites.
Yeah.
That was hard for me to put down. I really got engrossed in it, and it's not a perfect book by any means, but I just, having had watched the movie, the Tim Curry version before reading the book, I was like, oh my God, they missed so much.
Oh yeah, it's a very ambitious book. Yeah.
And I'm like, this just wasn't done the way it should have been. And then when the new movies came out, I was much more satisfied with them. Now, they also didn't hit the marks of, it's like you said, it's a huge book. It's just so much. And he was on so much cocaine when he wrote it.
Oh my God, so much cocaine.
And then, there's bits of the book that you really can't put into a movie because it's really problematic.
Child orgy.
Yeah, but I thought they did a really good job, and I loved the story, and I just, I can't. I'd say it was probably one of my favorites. The Stand was another one of my favorites.
Stand is really good. Another, interestingly enough, like they did an awesome comic omnibus of The Stand as well, which is very well done and is on my shelf still as well. The Stand was really good. You said something about, I can't even remember what I was gonna say with regards to the last book. Oh, with it.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen the newest movies yet, even though they're on like my list and they're on HBO for free. But Wallace's partner Josh, the last time we had like a fire at my parents' house, had told me about, I think it's Splatterbox does like all these like documentary series about the makings of movies. Like he wrote me in because they had a 2-part documentary about the making of Hellraiser. But I went through a lot of them too, and they had a really good like 2-hour documentary about the making of the miniseries. And it was really like, they talked a lot about the adaptation and like how they had to put things together. And it was interesting because like the screenplay that they wrote for it was very much in like old television speak. Like they were talking about, okay, on night 1, we have to hit these points, these points, these points. And also they had to account for ad breaks back then. So because like the art of writing for TV was like, hey, you need to like have an act actually end when there's the ad break and have a little bit of a cliffhanger. So like there were so many weird limitations for the like It TV series that you wouldn't have with those movies at all. And I thought that was an interesting point to make too. Like,
no, I think that's very true. You can very clearly see that in the original It film. But the newest films, I mean, you're right, they didn't have those same constraints. And they also have the benefit of the fact that nowadays people are fully expecting films to be 3 hours long. So they really, it used to be that with films, hour to 2 hours max. Like you wouldn't, you don't really play with that too much. But I don't know why. I don't know what changed in the film industry where they started going for longer films. And I actually don't mind that. Like, for example, I went to go see Dune when it came out, the newest Dune. And we got to the end of that film, and I was perfectly willing to sit there for another 12 hours to keep watching. I
can't wait for Dune 2.
I'm so excited. I'm so pumped.
Well, what you were saying too, so one of the big changes with the industry was going away from reels to like actual digital projection. Because I know you worked at AMC for a while too.
Yeah.
And this was like when my friend Alex was the manager at the Regal Theater, we had just, when I say we, I mean like him, just started to get digital projections of movies as opposed to like, I remember one of the horror stories is when Inception came out. We always used to watch movies at like 2 or 3 in the morning when the theater would close for free. And like I'm sure you probably did too.
Yeah.
And he dropped a reel of Inception and it was like just splattered all over the floor. And it took him 5 hours to put it back together. And he took a picture of it too. And I was like, this would give me a heart attack. But the reels, they told us in film school that like making real duplicates of films was actually quite expensive. And that's why like in the old days, movies would go on like a tour as opposed to being released in every city in America at the same time because the reels were expensive. And then, like, as we went to digital, it doesn't require a ton of money to, like, make a DCP of something. So, you can make movies longer because it's all digital, as opposed to, like, having to... Like, if you do a 3-hour film reel, that's going to be twice as expensive as doing, like...
Hour and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I'm sure there were other reasons, too. Like, just pragmatically, if you want people to see more movies, you either charge the exact same ticket price for a 3-hour movie or for an hour-and-a-half movie. So I'm sure the economics of that are all blended together in some weird way.
No, I guess that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, back to those films, like those 2 films in particular, I mean, they just knocked it out of the park.
I'll have to go and watch them then.
Oh my gosh, they're so good. And I love Bill Skarsgård. I will love him for the rest of my life.
That's right. He's the Skarsgård you like, not the...
Well, I like Alexander Skarsgård too, but for entirely different reasons. I like Alexander Skarsgård for True Blood reasons. True Blood reasons are way different from Bill Skarsgård reasons.
Oh, he had a fabulous cameo in the season finale of season 3 of Atlanta where he played himself in like this weird... it's sort of like an Amelie parody that they do going through Paris. And he's dating the main character, but also like eating hands and doing like other weird things.
Weird.
Yeah, well, Atlanta is a great weird show. I've
never seen it.
Oh my God, you would especially love Atlanta because they delve into like different genres of things, and they do out of nowhere a horror episode at the end of season 2. That's one of the better horror movies I've ever seen. It's like a 40-minute like episode. And they actually required FX to play it without ad breaks the first time, too, because they didn't want to, like what we had talked about with It, they didn't want to break up any of the suspense.
I just watched a short film recently, a short horror film, and I found it because of TikTok. And it's called The Other Side of the Box. And it reminds me of a vid jam, so it's not like super high quality. It's only 15 minutes long, and I just really thought that it was a little impressive, some of the shots that they got and some of the concepts that they used. So I definitely recommend it, just for the sake of being like, wow, this is a weird thing that I'm watching right now.
That's the great thing about YouTube, is you can find all these weird things, like a rabbit hole I've gone down on YouTube lately is just watching this one channel that just talks about Super Nintendo and NES games all the time.
I've been watching, there's this guy on YouTube, his name is Point Crow, and he mods Breath of the Wild in a bunch of different funny ways.
That's cool.
And he does a stream on Twitch, and I have a general rule against watching other people play video games because I think that's stupid. But he does these things where he's like, every time I press A, Link doubles in size. Every time I say the word guard or say the word guard or a guardian, 20 guardians spawn. So it's just, I think it's funny the way he mods them. And
see, that's fun, like just finding new ways to play games, because the channel I've been watching is called SNES Drunk, and it's mostly just like talking about like the hardest levels on Super Nintendo. And the guy actually does like a couple of episodes where he's just like, I'm gonna play this game, and it's super boring for me to watch. Like, just give me a 5-minute like opinion piece on the Nintendo version of Willow. Like, don't play Turtles in Time in front of me.
Like I said, I really can't stand watching other people play video games, which is why when Ryan watches live League of Legends, and when we went, did I talk on the podcast about going to see live League of Legends?
Possibly.
We went to New York City to go see the World Championships, not the final, but it was like one of the what do you call it? Quarterfinals or something like that.
Semifinals.
At Madison Square Garden. And we watched these players for hours just play League of Legends. And I had very expensive drinks to get through that experience. And now we're getting married, so that's cool.
League of Legends is like, so actually a mutual friend of ours, Ryan Lockman, I had a car ride to and from Philadelphia with him like 6 years ago, where he explained all of League of Legends to me, because he's big into League of Legends as well.
Oh gosh!
And it was I still don't really know what was going on, but it sounded like a lot of fun. I do occasionally watch, just because I'm super into Hearthstone. I'll watch like the Hearthstone tournament champions that they do, just because like it's interesting to see different card plays than I would have figured out on my own for certain things. But these are also people who professionally play the game and spend a lot of money to be able to have an archetype deck for every single character, which I don't pay money for Hearthstone, so I get like one good deck per expansion, as opposed to the 12 necessary to compete in these tournaments.
Oh, yeah. I went to when I was in college, I had a bunch of friends that played Yu-Gi-Oh!
Oh, yeah.
And I just can't, they tried to teach me how to play, and no.
I've been curious about that because so Christian and Lennon play Yu-Gi-Oh! And they actually they compete in tournaments and apparently rank very highly.
Oh, yeah. One of my employees used to play professional Yu-Gi-Oh!
Professional Yu-Gi-Oh! I love it.
And I'm just like, I don't know how you like. Listen, I do dirty shit. Okay, I do dirty shit. I played Dungeons and Dragons. I've never done anything nerdy competitively. I just think I have principles about that, I guess.
Yeah, that's a kind of I think what got me into playing Hearthstone more was I really enjoyed it like 3 years ago when I picked it up, and then realized like it was one of the more popular streaming esports, if you can call it that.
Huh.
But like you said, like I don't want to make this a job.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, it's not fun for me anymore if it's an obligation. So
yeah, I've heard streamers talk about that in like interviews too, where they'll be like, I don't enjoy video games at all because I have to play them for like 12 hours a day. So like, what do you do to detox at that point? You just turn it, into a job. So
yeah, nope.
I do
like that.
I do this, like, this is my mantra with improv and stand up a lot of times too, is like, I don't want this to be a job. Please don't make this a job. I just want to have fun.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You were going to talk about, how much time do we have left?
We have about 15 minutes at this point.
Okay, cool. You were going to talk about open screen?
Oh, yeah. So, like, long ago, before we had a 45-minute conversation about just everything.
Literally everything.
The one thing I did want to talk about for this particular episode was, like, procrastination.
Oh,
so
wow,
I
crazy. It's like we procrastinated the whole conversation about procrastination. Anyway.
But yeah, so it's something I have mentioned before. Like, I've gotten a lot better at this since I've started taking Zoloft. And Open Screen has provided a good onus to, like, let me explain what Open Screen is first for everybody. So VidJam, before the pandemic wrecked the world, every quarter we would do something called Open Screen, which was supposed to be an open mic for films. And you can show, like, work in progress movies. You can show, like, a movie you want feedback on. You can just show, a lot of people just show their VidJam movies from, like, the previous times. The attendance has been varied. There have been times we've sold out. There have been times, Sam said that the last one, only one person showed up to, and it wasn't one of the organizers of the event because we all forgot. But Open Screen 2 is, like, just a fun way to, like, show your movies on a big screen. Like, if you didn't, I have a couple of friends who tried to do VidJams and, like, just couldn't get to the deadline for that particular one. And it's kind of a fun second chance. Like, you just get to screen things. And I have a ton of shorts I'm screening at this next one that have plagued me for years because I haven't finished them. Like, Ashley Madavi and I just finished the last of our 80s Girls shorts, which I'm looking forward to showing. We douse her in slime, as in Nickelodeon slime in this one.
Nice.
And then the short that we shot back in May, Whitewashers, which I'm trying to think of a much better title for than that. Like, that's something that I've been working on the last week as well. Open Screen's February 2nd, by the way.
Okay.
If anybody out there wants to come, if anybody out there wants to submit a movie or anything, like, people show music videos. I've shown promo videos I shot for WITF that they didn't use. Yeah. So
that's cool. And where would they go to submit or buy tickets?
I would go to the Midtown Cinema. They're or .com. They're the ones that, like, are running the site. And there is a submission link on the Facebook page, and I think that's also a submission link somewhere on the website as well. You can actually I don't know if we still do it this way, but it used to be you could show up with a USB stick and we would just put oh, sorry. Yeah, still not over that cold. But
yeah, no, we're both, like, dying in here. Thank you for everyone who's lasted this long through this episode.
Yeah, this has been a weird episode in that.
Yeah.
In that
but
vein.
We're getting back on track with things. That's the important thing.
Yeah, I think that's what frustrated me too about being sick so much was, like, I was like, this year we're gonna get back in shape. We're gonna do all sorts of good things, and then, like, getting sick just completely threw me off that axis, and I'm only just getting back to it. However, I had an improv show last night, and one of the guys on my team, John, was like, "Oh, you're looking a lot healthier these days," and I really appreciated that because I don't feel a lot healthier right now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you have any other shows coming up? Any kind of, what are you working on?
So I'm done for this month because Sunday School was the last improv show. Oh, sorry. I do 4 a month for the Improv Theater, 3 of which are in the first weekend, and then Sunday School is, like, the other one. Yeah, that's pretty much it for me. How about you? Do you have anything coming up?
Yes. So Ryan and I are in a murder mystery dinner theater production.
Ooh.
It's called Cafe Murder. And guys, you know that you love to see me die in many films, and I will be dying once more.
You're gonna die?
I'm gonna die, yeah.
Do you need fake blood?
No, but thank you.
I have lots of fake blood.
No, I appreciate it.
It wouldn't be Shannon dying if we didn't douse her in fake blood.
Right? Yeah. But no, that's coming up. That'll be on February 11th, which is the Saturday before Valentine's Day. It'll be in Duncannon. And if you're interested, we're capping it at 100 people. So get on it while the getting's good. Yeah.
That's a huge murder mystery, right?
Yeah. So tickets are $25, dinner and a show. In Duncannon, it's not too far. I drive to go see you guys' stuff in Harrisburg and Mechanicsburg and Camp Hill and all that. So I think you can make the trip. But yeah, and Ryan's gonna be in it.
Yeah.
Good old Ryan.
I remember you guys mentioning this last time too.
Yeah.
Like the dinner. Is it one night only?
One night only.
Oh,
Capped
man.
at 100 people, so it's, get in while the getting's good. You can message the podcast or message me directly, and I'll hook you up with getting tickets.
Duncan is such a funny little town. Like,
Yeah, it is really cute. It's right along the river and everything. If you haven't been there, this is your opportunity to check it out.
I have a lot of friends from Duncannon because like that's one of my better friends in in my 20s who thankfully I still get to see occasionally. Harry lives in Duncannon.
Oh, okay.
And it's funny, like he's come out to he came out to the Vid-Jam of Horror, and then he came out to like the last comedy show, and he was a musician in an Insane Clown Posse style rap rock band that I used to go to their shows all the time, and they were a lot of fun, just like if you get into the right mindset, like professional wrestling or something like that. Huh. But it's interesting because he has all these connections with all these other people, like Danny, who did the Vid-Jam of Horror about the doll, and he also did the one that you hosted. He did the one that won the audience choice and the filmmaker's choice.
Oh, cool.
For that one. But he was like a rapper, apparently, or musician of some kind with Harry, because Harry knew him. Harry knew my friend John, who I just said a minute ago, said I was looking healthier because he played in a band that was
Nice.
adjacent. So it's always fun to see like all these friends from different wakes of life connect with each other from like different eras in their lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
It makes
all
you
good
feel more
stuff.
like a folk hero.
Yeah. No, and it's nice, when you can kind of make connections like that. So good stuff all around.
Yeah.
Let's see. Anything else going on? No, I don't have anything else going on.
Yeah. Well, my birthday is coming up in 9
Happy
days.
birthday.
Yeah. I'm going to be 38 years old, which is only 2 years away from death. So,
What?
yeah.
Hold on a second. Do I only have a 40-year life expectancy?
Nah, you have 41. So,
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. That makes me feel better. Ryan's plan is when he turns 70, he wants to fight a bear. And we'll keep you posted on that. So.
yeah. Hopefully, I'm alive to see Ryan get to 70, but we'll see about that.
Oh, I don't know. That'll make you, I don't know, 80 something.
Yeah, well, I'm already having like weird mortality dreams because like I had a dream 2 nights ago that kind of put me in a weird mood all day yesterday where it was actually, and I texted her about this too because I thought this was weird. It was me and Karen, and we were both like locked in a hospital, both awaiting different kinds of surgeries, but we were stuck in, and this wasn't even like a scary hospital. It was like just a normal hospital with no ghosts, no goblins, no weathered floor tiles. But it just put me in this really weird mood the whole day where I'm like, am I starting to have mortality dreams at this point? I'm still so young. I need to get in better shape.
I had a dream a week or two ago. I have a friend. She's a social media influencer, and one time she did this TikTok about like all the things she could fit in her bra. And that wasn't even the dream. So the dream I had was she turned into a vampire. And you know as well as I do that the universal code of friendship says that if your friend joins the legions of the undead, you have to kill them. So I tried to stake her, but her phone was in her bra, and I couldn't stake her because her phone was in her bra. That was the dream.
That's a great dream.
Yeah.
Have you ever kept a dream journal at all?
No, I'm really bad at journaling in general.
Yeah.
So
I have a dream journal because
actually, sorry.
You're good. I was gonna say I did keep one for a while because I read about the concept of lucid dreaming, and I thought it was gonna be like Inception, like if I know I'm dreaming, I can dream myself into a big gun or something. Oh, there's feedback.
Yep, I got it. I just remembered that I do keep like a little notes in my phone for anything that really stands out. Let me find it.
But yeah, I never achieved lucid dreaming. But there was another podcast I listened to by one of my favorite comedians, like 10 years ago, and he said on there that he was like he did do the lucid dreaming thing for a while, but he said it wasn't actually like what you would expect because if you know you're dreaming, it's really just kind of like daydreaming.
Yeah.
It's not actually just it's not the Inception world. Like you don't get to because you're dreaming, you don't get lost in the world. And I thought that was an interesting observation. So what do you got dream journal wise?
You discovered a human trafficking ring and was trying to stop them.
Wow.
That's one of them. Vampire apocalypse at your old high school. You stole a school bus.
Oh. Did the school bus have vampires in it or?
Well, I was trying to like escape so I stole the school bus to escape.
Oh, okay.
And
It works, yeah.
Yeah. So those are the two most recent dreams that have been recorded.
Honestly, the dreams I remember the most are the nightmares, because this was. I'm usually very entertained by nightmares because I like horror things.
Yeah.
Like the dreams that really make me feel bad are like the ones I talked about where like there's nothing like movie-wise scary going on. It's mostly just Hal in a hospital awaiting a heart surgery or something like that, which just leaves me depressed. But like I remember I had a dream about a year and a half ago that like all of the Hellraiser Cenobites like took over me as I was staying in a hotel with friends in Cape May, and they were just like Cenobiting us one at a time, and they put us all out on a porch like 10 stories up, and I climbed out on the porch and like was climbing down because I was like, if I fall and die, it's gonna be a lot better than whatever they're gonna do to me. But then I escaped and was running away, and they kept coming after me, and like that was an entertaining nightmare for me because it's like being in a horror movie.
I'm really glad that I don't get your dreams. Yeah, that's how I feel about it.
Yeah. Interesting, like something else I was thinking about the other day too is like when I lived in California, I used to have tons of dreams about like my neighborhood that I live in now and just like the surrounding area all the time, like sort of like I miss these locations kind of things. Huh. But I don't want to say they were never the same, but every single, like there were like, it was the same location, but there were like 6 to 7 different styles of like what my neighborhood looked like. And they did recur, like some style, like over foresty happened a bunch of times in the same way, or very like building, like more city-like. It's weird to describe exactly. And I wish I had thought about this before we only had 4 minutes left.
We'll have to talk more about dreams another time. I have some pretty good ones that are recurring that are interesting and entertaining to talk about.
Yeah, the big recurring dreams I had actually were like working at Hershey Park was a big one. Because you want to talk about it, like, because I spent 8 years working there and I had a lot of fun in that place. And also, like, that's another situation where, like, the locations had, like, 7 or 8 set styles that would just repeat over and over again.
I've been having a lot of dreams about my old being in high school marching band. Mm-hmm. And I think it might be coming up because I found out that my old high school band director is retiring this year. So most of my dreams revolve around not being able to find my trumpet, not being able to find my music, not being able to find my band uniform, and while I'm looking for my band uniform, all the clothes that I am wearing are disappearing. So that's another problem. So, yeah, dreams like that I get on occasion.
I used to get a slight recurring dream I had actually was like I was in the High School Musical lead, which never happened. I was never a lead in a High School Musical, but like I hadn't learned any of my lines and we only had like an hour and a half before curtain call for the first show. And I was like, oh no, I got to learn these as fast as possible kind of thing. But then like, it was like, oh, all my lines are at my house. So I'd have to run back to my house. But then I'd slip and fall in mud or something on the way there. And so like all the time was ticking away to even find the lines to try to learn them.
Huh. Wow.
So I feel like you do have like a lot of these dreams, and you know, I'm sure a therapist out there who's listening to us could be like, oh, these are like anxiety dreams.
Oh, they probably all are for me.
Yeah, same. Because another, like, oh man, why did we think about this topic at the very end?
Because we're terrible. We're terrible podcast hosts.
Another like dream I had that was recurring all the time was like giant waves crashing, like being at the beach.
I've had a couple of those.
Yeah. And I can't remember if I was entertained by these or terrified by them, but maybe a little both.
I don't know. Weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so we only have like another minute left before Hal has to drive to work. So,
yep.
Yeah, anything else you want to share with the world?
No, just keep listening. We'll be back next week, hopefully.
With a better game plan, probably.
A better game plan. This is all about, partial credit. So
yeah.
I thrive off of partial credit.
This is just like getting back into the style after we've been off for so many weeks because of stupid sickness.
Yep. So. And keep an eye on the social media. We'll post anything that Hal and I have coming up. And we appreciate every one of you and are always also excited to hear about what you like about us and what you want to hear from us. So,
if anything. Yeah,
just let us know how we're doing, and we look forward to talking to you again.
Yeah, hopefully I think we're going to have a lot more guests this coming year, too.
Yeah.
I've talked with some more people. Walls McKelvey will always come back. Wallace is like the unofficial third member of the Depression Vacation
We
podcast.
love Wallace.
Yeah, his episodes are the ones that have been listened to the most.
Yes.
On this too. And then some of the ones I thought were really good, like Sex Education Woes, have been some of the least listened to episodes.
Well, I'm judging our listeners right
Yeah.
now. Listeners, listen, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, this has been Depression Vacation. I've been Shannon.
I've been Hal. And yeah, have a great week, and we'll see you next week. Maybe. Unless we get sick again.